We are occupied. Have you forgotten how put down we are? News of the day, December 15th, 2023. Start with the script, study of the past, the scriptures, then the shovel to build defenses for your camp or your city, then the shield, protect yourself personally, food storage, fire extinguishers, get to know your neighbors, then the sword. If all else fails, then the sword. That's last. That's last. The leftover gleanings of your fields and vineyards are for the poor and the traveler. And even the corners of your fields, depending upon the need that year. But don't fill your pockets. Get it? Just what you need. That way, there's enough for everyone. If you have a field on a piece of land, no one else can use that piece of land, and so you give something back to the community, like the land part of the local property tax, to pay for services that we all enjoy. Reap what you sow, dwell where you build. Pay your workers on the day of their work. The leftover gleanings of your fields and vineyards are for the poor and the traveler. And even the corners of your fields, depending upon the need that year. But don't fill your pockets. While Levant was an independent area, every 7 years, wipe out all debt, free all the slaves, and take the year off. Every 7th sabbatical, the 50th year, the Jubilee, redistribute all the land to the families by their numbers. A sharing. Now, after Alexander came through Levant, they changed that to where it's essentially morphed into the land portion of your yearly property tax, giving back to the community each year for the value you receive, equal with your neighbors. That's why you take the tax off buildings and make it higher on the site value. But wouldn't that be the same for a homeowner if there was no tax on the building but higher on the land? No, it would not. And the direction that the economy would take from then on would definitely not be like it is now. As you remove the building tax, it makes it easier to build. As you raise it on the land value, nobody would think of land speculating, buying up land and holding it for a high future price. But usually past the 20-year boom and bust cycle, so then they missed out on making a killing selling the community value in the land. Then they raised the rent with a vengeance. They took money out of their pocket all those years, made their family sacrifice all those years to hold that land empty because they were going to sell it later, but never did, except a few that time it right, and they make a killing, they become billionaires. Pittsburgh's granted, gradually taking the tax off buildings, so it makes it more affordable to build, raising it on the land value so nobody land speculates, and those land speculators and half the realtors can get honest work. Half the realtors Half the realtors are against making this change of taking the tax off buildings and just putting it on land by its value, like in the community, near the railroads, near the access to sewer and water, and nearness to schools and businesses, downtown land. What about the other half of the realtors? They're not opposed to this? No, and you can see them with calluses on their hands and muscles in their shoulders. Those realtors, those developers, would be for removing the building tax because it would make it more profitable to build or to fix up and improve an existing place. Don't you get it? Working together means sharing of the land or the revenue from the land for common purposes. Reap what you sow, dwell where you build. So every country can share the land or the revenue from the land for common purposes. Schools for all the children. Medical care for all the people, except the United States, that's a monopoly. A universal basic income for all adults, like the Green New Deal is proposed with the carbon fee and dividend, where every American would get $1,000 a month, every adult, and the tax on the carbon would pay for it. Each year raising the tax 10% to further direct the economy away from pollution. See, it's the trend. Like removing the building tax, the trend would be to improve existing buildings and to build fine quality buildings, as you would raise it on the land value, unearned increment of economic rent. No one would think of land speculating. You'd only think of getting land if you were going to actually build. City would fill in, become more efficient. Taxes would go way down on farmers because they're taxed heavily on their equipment and their buildings and ponding and fencing. Make it easier to grow. And everybody should be growing their own food. A good portion of their own food in their own garden, community garden, personal garden. Gardens should be made available for everyone, everywhere on the planet. So everybody can initially take care of themselves as much as possible when it comes to food. Land is the issue. Labor is applying your work to land, like going to the woods and getting a stick so you can stomp the ground and put seeds in and grow food. Eventually, that capital tool that you use for wealth, that you use for making more wealth, will wear out. You'll have to go to the woods to get a stick to replace it. Oh, but somebody else owns the woods. It's been enclosed by English lords. So you don't have equal access to the plentifulness of the earth. This is just one small planet. What are we fighting for? Why aren't we working together? Why aren't we going to the stars? Think of the empires that have come and gone. Think of the Hittites in modern-day Turkey, Anatolia. They became masters of making metal weapons. How so? They needed an energy source to do it with, which was charcoal, which means cutting down half the trees of the country to make weapons to protect themselves or attack other places. And their own economy died because there's no trees. The streams dried up. Fighting over resources is very wasteful, very polluting. So we can work together and have a prosperous world. As always, on News of the Day, that I encourage everyone to be as open and honest as possible in all your business dealings, but never show your wealth or your weapons.